We've just watched Aliens for the first time. Is it really the best sequel ever made? Let's find out. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back. The Eye of the Storm podcast. Danny G, do you want to let the people know what we're doing?
So this is Have You Seen, where we talk about a movie that some of us know well and others have just seen for the first time. This week we're talking about Aliens, the sequel to Alien, which we did a few weeks ago, which I've seen many times, and the two of you have just seen for the first time. So what are your impressions?
I will say that this is my kind of movie, even though I still have a problem with like old movies, because I feel like they have this problem where everything just seems slow. I'll get into that more a bit later, but overall, I actually enjoyed my experience watching Aliens because, like I said, this is my type of story. A group of people, well, these are a group of soldiers, cocky, not knowing what the danger is ahead. And then once they're faced in front of the danger, they're put in a place where they're in a situation of survival. So that's my kind of drift. You know what I'm saying? That's my kind of story. And I really liked it. I did actually feel like it was an unexpectedly good sequel. And I say that because I don't know, my first reaction to the first movie, I was like, yeah, this is cool, it's good. I just don't understand why it was labeled one of the best horrors ever made. That's why I was a bit confused. And I wouldn't say I'm still kind of with that same opinion, but not as much because obviously I enjoyed Aliens too. I did have its problems, which I'll speak about later. But besides that, I thought it was a really good second film. Like this is something I'd actually rewatch. And this is actually the first time I've said this for like an old movie. This is actually a film that I'd actually rewatch because it's just like I said, I just love group survival movies. Just love it. I'm saying. And Hudson, that guy was flipping funny, but that's we'll get into that later. Yeah, that's my opinion.
This movie was fantastic. It was great. It was a good watch. Like I think it does a lot of really good things for a sequel in terms of like building on some of the previous, taking the main character on a sort of a kind of new character arc as well. That's built on sort of the previous movie as well. The action in it is, pretty interesting, very entertaining. I feel like the aliens as well. Like I feel like the aliens in this one are a lot more like menacing, a lot more like sort of scarier than what it was in the first movie as well. And yeah, like I'm same opinion of Jonathan. I don't really watch like these really old movies, but this like they did a really good job of sort of kind of again like reintroducing you to the role, kind of like building it up, etc., and just kind of like really immersing you in sort of this alien universe. One complaint was the little girl in the movie. She was a bit stiff. I know she's not like a huge. Well, she's in the movie quite a bit, but she's not like sort of in front of the screen and sort of talking too much. But anytime she was, it was just a bit jarring. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. This is a fantastic movie. This is a great sequel.
So I take issue with the fact that you don't like Newt because Newt is precious and wonderful. But it's good to hear that the two of you both like this. Was this what you expected from the Alien sequel, right? Like if you watch our last video on Alien, both of you were not terribly into it, and then I said it's not going to be a horror movie, and that's the only thing I told you about it, and that kind of caught your interest. Is that like what did you expect going into this, and how, like the first half hour or so, how did that come across to you?
The first half hour was again a little bit. It was a little bit slow, not as slow as the first Aliens movie, but again I started to like feel the pacing of it. And there's important things happening at the start of the movie, but it did feel slow in terms of like expectations kind of going into it. I knew, like you said, I knew it was going to be different, but I didn't know which direction they were going to go with. But in hindsight, and knowing the sort of time period that this movie was taking place amongst sort of like kind of like the 80s, 90s sort of action movies, this and the other, it probably makes sense that it sort of kind of went in this direction. I think it even came like about like 7 years sort of after the original sort of Aliens movie came out, which probably influenced what type of movie this ended up being sort of as things started sort of kind of change in the Hollywood landscape. And personally, I actually couldn't see it being anything else but this, to be fair, because it just makes sense, like you had sort of obviously the corporation that had sort of their own self-interest in the first movie, and of course they didn't end up getting sort of what they wanted, but obviously it was then sort of confirmed to them that there was this species, this alien life form on this particular planet. So it then made sense for them to, with Ripley's kind of like account of what happened at the start of the movie, for them to like maybe like potentially set up, well, like for them to set up how they can then go back to that planet or go back and sort of try to sort of get sort of smuggle one of these aliens essentially. So, and the only way to do that is to have some muscle, because you've been informed that these sort of aliens are super dangerous. It's completely wiped out a whole crew and there's only one survivor. So then it makes sense to have sort of the best of the best, or the elite soldiers, to then sort of go in and actually tackle it and then try to sort of do a retrieve mission essentially, and sort of try to retrieve an alien species, even though it's kind of disguised by the fact that they're sort of going to rescue this family, which sort of which sent out the distress signal. So yeah, I didn't expect it, but the direction of it pretty much it made sense, especially like watching the movie, which is refreshing. It kind of shows that there was an idea, and again, the first one was done by Ridley Scott, I believe, and then obviously James Cameron kind of came in and built on that. And just to kind of bring it to modern times slightly, this is like a criticism that we have for sort of a lot of like modern movies, where you have sort of these new writers, new directors sort of working on older IP and adding their own kind of like spin to it and their own interpretations. And it's quite often the case that they don't really understand or appreciate what was set up initially, and then they just want to sort of kind of add their, and there's nothing wrong with adding your own flavor to it. But quite often when they're adding their own flavor to it, it's in disservice to what came before, essentially. So this is an example of someone coming in, seeing someone's work, appreciating it, and actually building upon it and sort of adding more value to it.
Adding to it as opposed to subtracting from it.
Yeah.
Or ignoring it, or just scrapping it. Yeah. I think this movie is like the master class in how to do a sequel, in my opinion. Like it really expands the mythos, right, of the original, and it does. I don't think it contradicts anything that the first one says, but it kind of zooms out, right, and makes the world bigger. It makes the aliens more complete. We're not just seeing one, we're seeing an entire colony, stuff like that. And I think that really helps with the problem of being a sequel, right? Because the obvious thing to do would have been Ripley gets to safety, and then she joins another crew, and then that crew gets killed by an alien again, and then she fights them again, right? That would be the obvious thing to do. That's what just about every franchise would do, right? And the fact that they just completely changed the story here and just move forward and go into an entirely different genre, with a very different tone, and like towards the end it feels similar because they're still being hunted by aliens, right? But for the most part, it's a very different movie.
Yeah.
But I don't get you said that this isn't a horror movie, but the feel of this, for me, did feel like a horror movie. And I feel like that's a lot coming from me, because a lot of movies which a lot of people consider as horror, I wouldn't consider them horror. I just consider them as thriller. Yeah. But this one definitely did kind of feel like, it's not kind of, it did feel like a horror to me, because of the whole aspect of like, the alien in an isolated situation, dark, scary, trying to survive. So what for you made this not, why wouldn't you classify this as a horror?
So I think part of this is semantics, right? Because towards the end, it's a couple of survivors, they're being hunted by aliens. It's scary and dark and violent. And you could say that in the last half hour, 45 minutes, it turns into a horror movie maybe. And that's a little bit semantic maybe. But to me, the reason it feels like an action movie first and foremost is that in like one of the hallmarks of horror is that the characters don't have any power, right? They're being hunted by something more powerful than them. They don't really have any effective ways of fighting back. They don't have a good way to escape. So it's all about helplessness and lack of agency and stuff like that. And the Marines have a lot of agency, right? They have the best equipment possible. They are organized. They not fully, but largely know what they're walking into. And it still all goes to hell, right? But the tone of it, and like when the alien starts hunting people in the first one, it's very improvised. It's very irregular people being stalked by a monster kind of thing. And in the second one, it's a military unit responding to a threat, right? Like their mission has failed, and now they're trying to get out and trying to survive. And they have a lot more agency. They have a lot more options. They have a lot more know-how. And it's not just because it's the second movie and they learn stuff from the first one, although that also helps that people remember stuff from the first movie, right? But it's just that the amount of agency and competence that the characters have. I think that changes it. Even when they're down to 3 people and they're being hunted, like the fact that Ripley takes like just duct tapes together 4 guns and goes into the nest to rescue Newt and just destroys like a dozen eggs and kills 4 aliens, whatever. That's not horror movie stuff, and that's action movie stuff.
True.
So you can argue where exactly the line is, but I think it approaches the same story from a different angle. It's like a slasher movie where the main character is the police, right? It's a different kind of story. Even if it is moving towards horror, it's not the same feel and the same kind of spirit. And that's what I mean by saying it's not a horror movie.
I see what you mean. So what would you consider, not to kind of like drift away from the main topic at hand, so what would you consider Predator then?
First one, in Predator, you take every action hero cliche of the 80s, of the era, and then you take away their power. And then you have to be hunted by a monster. So it's leaning, I would say, more leaning towards horror, because the characters in there don't have any agency, right? They're just at the mercy of this monster in the same way that regular people would be. So, but I think that like to loop that back to Aliens, I think that is how you keep that story fresh, right? That you approach the same subject matter, but from a different vantage point, from a different 3 eyes of different characters, and therefore the movie feels completely different. That's how I would describe that.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I agree, it was interesting. It felt like it had more substance rather than obviously just for I don't know how long the movie was, maybe 2 hours and 30 minutes, rather than just seeing everyone get hunted till the very end, because that's pretty much how most horror movies are, right? When the main antagonist, the main evils are just just slowly breaking down its victim until it gets to the final point. But with this one, it was like, okay, there was constant strategic battling, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Which I was about to say with the main actress, what's her name? Sorry, Ripley.
Ripley, yeah.
Yeah, I feel she was low key badass. I said badass. She was low key badass.
Yeah.
I think, is she like an iconic figure in like the horror genre as well, or just the Alien franchise?
Mostly science fiction, I would say. I'm not sure she did a lot of horror, straight horror.
No, but I'm saying from this
like
role,
one of the big sci-fi icons because of these movies.
Yeah, I meant like from this role, was she like yeah, I could tell, because I don't know, her aura, just like the way that she'd go about things in this film, it felt like it didn't feel surreal. It didn't feel like, what's the thing that you guys kept on referring, the beekeeper, and then you said you kept on referring this term to his character because he pretty much had no flaws.
That would be a Mary Sue.
Mary Sue, cool. She didn't feel like a Mary Sue.
Character, no personality outside of being awesome, can do anything without justification, that sort of thing. Ripley is not that at all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, she felt like you could see her growing throughout the film. Like, especially obviously in Alien 1, you saw her. She was someone that was very like into the rules, pretty much. Like, especially with the scene where she nearly locked out her commander, her manager, whatever. I don't know what the terms used for a superior, but she even locked out her team members because they were infected. And to see her now, like, she's literally going against certain rules, where she's telling the what's his name, the one that was pretty much making all the rules, where she was like, the scene where she was screaming at him to tell them to bring them back in. Yeah, so you can kind of see how she was developing, how she, especially in her environment, how she was developing in certain environments, and she was like growing into that leader. That's definitely something that I loved about her. And yeah, she was a badass, man.
And I think there's actually a really neat character arc here, where she, like you said at the start, she's all about the rules. She's very by the book. She believes in structure, right? Like she's the one who tries to enforce the quarantine rules. And also in the first movie, when people start being worried about their pay, she's the one who said, look, it's in your contract. You've got a right to this. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Like, she trusts in the system, right?
Yeah.
And here she doesn't trust anybody, right? Mm-hmm. She's already been screwed over by the company once, and the rules didn't help her. And now she's thrust into this new situation against her will, essentially, more or less. And the people in charge who make the rules and are supposed to enforce them are completely useless, and they are making things worse because they don't know what they're doing, right? Like, the corporate guy clearly has an agenda. The commanding officer is on his second mission, right? at this point it's only survival, and you only like there's only one goal for Ripley, right? And I think this whole like she's not really like she's not a soldier. She's probably the weakest person in the group, right? Just she's the only one who's not a like aside from the corporate guy, but she's the only one who's not a trained Marine, right? And she still just survives through sheer stubbornness and determination. I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie on that level is when she takes the elevator down to the Queen's lair, and she takes a deep breath, checks her guns again, and then panics a little bit, and then gets her shit together by the time the doors open. And that's our action hero, right? Like the big badass hero is going to save the day, and she's afraid, and she's going to do it anyway because it's like she's the only one who can do it, and there's nobody else who can help. Like stuff like that, I think really works in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like what they really do well in this movie, and especially in her character, it just kind of like subtly place those themes within there where they're not hitting you over the head with it, because you could see it like at the start of the movie, you know, she's having panic attacks about sort of what happened in the previous movie. She's kind of like it's noted that like she's having like sort of nightmares and this that, and the other, waking up in cold sweats or whatever. And of course when they have like the first encounter, like you were saying that like she's like, or Jonathan was saying that, you know, she's shouting for people to like kind of like get back and this that, and the other because of what she's seen before and this that, and the other. And then you're then seeing, you know, as things are happening in the movie, she's kind of like overcoming that fear and essentially like facing that fear that she sort of had at the start of the movie. And then, like you said, you know, by the end of the movie, she's sort of, you know, brave enough, and she sort of, you know, she essentially is like going to like face the fear, you know, do what she can. And sorry, there's a few themes in here like underneath her, because, you know, she's doing it for like the character New, but then at the start of the movie, you know, they mention about her daughter, which sort of which she sort of like grew up and sort of had a whole life and died while she was sort of frozen in time or whatever. And it was actually a very neat parallel, and I'm sure we'll like touch on a little bit more about the Alien Queen or whatever that they described her as, in terms of like, you know, her kind of like her maternal instincts sort of kind of started to kick in with Newt or whatever. And then you have that scene where sees all like the eggs being laid. And again, just like I'm like chucking a bunch of things in it or whatever. But I thought it was really cool how they were talking about like sort of, you know, how like the aliens could be like ants and this and the other, and how they'd be like a mother queen laying all these eggs or whatever. And then it's then paid off later on in the movie. But that particular scene where they kind of like have the showdown, and you kind of see that there's kind of this, not a hive mind, but like you see that the queen has sort of a lot of control over the aliens, where she's kind of like protecting her eggs. You know, she can see that Ridley's got like the gun and flamethrower and whatever, and is about to kill her eggs, but then she's like, you know, ushering like all the other aliens to kind of step aside or whatever. So there was like a really neat.
She negotiates with the queen, like the queen and Ripley negotiate.
Yeah,
isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very. Yeah, it's just like stuff like that, which, you know, you kind of find lacking in a lot of modern movies, where, you know, you could say that they're like very one note, especially when they're doing female characters, which fall flat on modern audiences. Again, it's not because you can't have a strong female protagonist, it's because you're not inserting those sort of, you know, those subtle themes, those sort of, you know, subtle
qualities.
Yeah, the little like character flaws, which then sort of, you know, that makes the character go on a particular journey, which we can go on the journey with the character, which makes her a lot more interesting, a lot more engaging, essentially. So that's what this movie does extremely well.
One of the few problems I had though with this film was what you mentioned, Hervé, was the maternity traits. The only reason why I had a problem with it is because where did it come from? Because did I miss something from the first movie, or was it a thing where, because like, is she a mother? Because I get it, like, cool, I get she's a woman, she sees a little girl, and you know, like, you know, just the feeling of protection is going to start to kick in. I get that, but
I don't think Ripley having a child was mentioned in the first movie. And there may be a line where she says, "I'm trying to get back to my kid" or something. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think there is. Okay, I think so that is basically new.
And I feel like that theme was pretty much shown in the film, which obviously with the mama alien, and then with her and the little girl. So I was kind of confused as to, okay, why is this, firstly, like, where did this come from? Why is there such importance in, like, why are they putting so much not so much emphasis in it, but you can tell like that theme is being explored. But like, where did that theme come from? Like there was nothing in the previous films that triggered that or told us that, okay, she's a mother, or, you know, there's, if you get what I'm saying.
I think so. My interpretation is that it's not just about motherhood; it's about motherhood and survival at the same time, right? The queen.
But where did motherhood come from, though? As in, why did they introduce it?
I don't have a good answer to that. It just
Oh.
I guess it seemed interesting to James Cameron. Is maybe my answer. I don't think it follows organically from the first movie.
Yeah, that's
But
my only problem.
like,
Because yeah,
it's more like she rises to the occasion of being a mother figure for Newt, not because it comes natural to her, because it doesn't, right? She's not good at it. She's not the warmest person. Like she said that she never met her child, right? Like because she slept through her child's entire life. But it's not like being a mother is her is her calling, or is her personality, or is very important to her nature. But then she has to, because Newt needs somebody, and because
so she has a child.
well, so at the start of the movie, we are told that Ripley had a child who was maybe 7, 8, 9 when she was on the Nostromo, and then she slept through that entire life because she spent 60 years, whatever, in cryosleep. So her child is dead, or is maybe is like in her 80s now.
Can I
or something.
sorry, just to interrupt you there. So they said her daughter died at 60 years old, and they showed this picture of a very old woman that looked 90, and I was like,
Yeah.
It's hilarious that they thought that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes more sense now,
Yeah.
because she's technically like the child that she never got to raise. Okay, that makes sense then.
So there's different levels here, right? Like one of
Yeah.
them is why make that a theme of the movie, and then there's why does Ripley feel an obligation to Newt, and then how does that mirror with the Queen? I think those are 3 different topics. I think the reason why it's in the movie as opposed to anything else, I don't have a good answer to. It doesn't really follow organically from the first one. It's not really in Ripley's character before, but it really creates this it like kind of echoes with Ripley's survival character, right? Because in the first movie, she was responsible for her own survival. Like she wanted to help her crew and everything, but ultimately she wanted to survive. And here, somebody else needs her. Newt can't survive on her own, like not indefinitely. She can't save herself. So somebody has to, and that somebody has to be Ripley, because everybody else around her keeps dying. So that would be one aspect to it. And then once you have that in place, like you thrust this kind of obligation and burden on somebody who has enough problems and who is not a great fit for that job, but nobody else can do it because there's literally everybody else who could do it is dead. And then once you have that in place, you add the Queen, which kind of makes logical sense that there would be somebody laying those eggs, right? But then you have this mirror between Ripley and the alien Queen, who are both kind of trying to keep their thing going, right? And they're willing to kill for it, and they get increasingly desperate over time. Like at the start, the alien Queen is very much in control, right? And then by the end, she's just like Ripley, is reduced to pure survival. So I think there's a really cool parallelism going on here.
Yeah. Also, one thing. Oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No. Just
one thing that I found interesting as well. I think this was briefly mentioned. I don't know if it was by you, Hervé, or Daniel, one of you, but was the aliens' intelligence. Like I don't think it was evolving, but like this movie kind of like started to reveal. It revealed more on how intelligent that these aliens actually are, especially with that scene where the mama alien and Ripley are having that like it's like they came into an agreement that okay, because I remember when the alien told, because obviously she had the flamethrower, and then the alien, and she could see that she was gonna burn the eggs, and then the alien told the mama alien told the other aliens that were surrounding her to leave, as in like you obviously told them to leave, and then they left. And then while she was backing up, is this that they came into an agreement? I was like, what the hell? They've got the brain capacity to do that?
It was a hostage negotiation, right? Like Ripley
exactly
in the ex-hostage. But it's also very instinctual, right? It's not like there's a lot of nuance to it. It's like, let me go or I kill the thing you care about. Like that's very primal, very universal, right? So that the Queen didn't have to be very intelligent to engage in that dialogue, right? But and it's already been established that the aliens are smarter than just animals, right? They're not just wolves. They're not just I don't know what. And that was established at the end of the first movie, right? When the alien anticipated that Ripley would go to the shuttle and hid in the shuttle to ambush her. Yeah. And here they do it again, where they sneak on, where they realize the importance of the dropship, right? Where they sneak onto the dropship and then they don't just start randomly causing chaos. They go to the pilot, which like you can argue that maybe that's one step too far, but it's still aliens recognizing what's valuable to their enemies or to their prey. and like and there was something where the aliens had disabled a generator or something, or a signal relay or something. So they kind of realize when something is important and they know how to get an advantage. So like it's subtly building up just how intelligent these things are without just making them people. And the fact that they're not quite people but also not quite animals, I think makes them really creepy because you have no idea what they're going to do.
Exactly. And that's like the terrifying thing as well, like especially in the scene when they were coming through the ventilators. That scene, I thought that scene was brilliant. Obviously, so the Marines, did you say the Marines?
Yeah, that's Space Marines.
Obviously, yeah, Ripley and the Marines locking themselves in, and then they're looking at the like, what was the thing that they had?
That motion detector.
Radar. Yeah. That, and they were saying they're coming, but they can't see now what the hell's going on. And then
he looks up, and there's like 15 aliens.
Yeah.
At him. Yeah, great shot.
And then it just exploded. I was like, yeah, that's how you do this scene. That was amazing.
And that again parallels first movie, right? In the first movie, there was an alien coming down an air vent, but it was one alien, and here it's 15.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it is a callback, but it's also upping the stakes and doing something different.
And I love the Marines as well. Freaking Hudson, that guy is hilarious. And you see the parallel between him and what was the second guy, Ripley, the one that survived at the end. What's his name? The one that got his eye burnt off.
In this movie.
Yeah. So he's the guy that's pretty much with Ripley. So it's only him, is Ripley, the little girl.
Right?
Sorry?
It would be Hicks, right?
Is it Hicks?
I think so. I'm not sure.
I think it's Hicks.
But we know who you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, he's the way that like obviously Hudson started off confident, cocky, macho, and obviously Ripley started off with a guy with and then Hicks started off with a guy with no experience, and then to kind of see them switch, see one deteriorating and one elevating. And the way that Hudson was deteriorating as well was freaking hilarious. The way he kept on saying, "Man, come on, man." He said, we couldn't go there, man. I was like, this guy's hilarious. I would have thought it was good. I thought it would have been corny, but it wasn't. Like, for me, like, okay, the problem that I have with old movies, sometimes things feel a bit slow and still. So I remember when Harvey said, okay, he didn't really like the girl, like the little girl's acting because it felt a bit, I'm guessing, bland, right? So, and I feel like that's kind of like, and I feel like sometimes that's like a universal problem when it comes to old movies. It just doesn't feel like there's energy in where they're acting. I'm not trying to say for them to be theatrical, but sound like you're actually the character, right? And I feel like sometimes that's what they lack. But with Hudson's character, he you could tell he was acting, but he was funny. Like he was like the energy boost that was needed in this, like amongst the Marines. Because I love like the whole relationship dynamic. Like I just love the relationship dynamic in like when it comes to different personalities. Like in the Marines, I think it really worked well. But yeah, Hudson, like just seeing his character slowly deteriorate was hilarious. Like he was like the guy. He went out like a warrior, though. I can't lie to you, but still, even when the way he died was funny. But yeah, he was one of my favorite characters in this film.
Yeah, and the Marines kind of work on a few different levels too, right? Like they are very, like you said, cocky. They're very sure of themselves. They don't really take the threat seriously. But there's also a parallel to the crew in the first movie, right? Because they're just kind of real people in this world, and they just happen to be like these highly armed professionals, but they're still people. And then over time, that kind of gets stripped away, and then by the end, they're just trying to survive. Kind of like the first crew, they were also professionals, and they were maybe more technical, but by the end, they were also just reduced to survival, right? So there was a need parallel.
What informed that as well? Wasn't there a line when they were kind of like discussing about like the alien life on this particular planet, and they were like saying how they hadn't come across anything like this previously, and obviously they've been in space for our X amount of years, so it kind of informed their kind of misjudgment of the situation and them being a little bit cocky and not really taking it seriously as well, which I thought was good.
The line was something like we survey the indigenous life, and there's nothing like this on this planet. Yeah. And says, well, that's because it's not indigenous. It's not from this planet, right? So it's like there's people being way too sure of like the theory and the expertise, right? Like there's some scientist somewhere who made a model or did a survey or something and found nothing, therefore nothing exists, right? It's again this whole thing of institutions being useless.
Yeah. Another callback I liked in this movie was, in the first movie where the guy turned out to be a robot, and obviously he was kind of invested in sort of, or he was sort of carrying out the corporate sort of corporate's mission in terms of sort of bringing back alien life form at all costs, essentially. So then you then fast forward it to this movie where she's on a mission with another robot and is immediately mistrusting of him because of her previous experience, and then obviously over time has to learn to kind of build that trust with him to the point where he eventually sort of saves the day. And I feel like they played it really well because when you're first introduced to him, he's not awful, but he's a little bit off, or he's a little bit cold. So you're kind of oh, is it this situation again? And then again, it makes you think about the wider universe. Is are all these robots just sort of kind of serving the corporate interest as opposed to sort of having anything more about them, essentially. So I thought that was again just another. It's just another neat bow in terms of building out sort of Ripley's character and sort of kind of having a little bit more sort of to her, and then sort of adding to the movie.
And also the wider world, right? It's not like every robot is an enemy or is evil or is dangerous, right? They're ultimately people in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
And a lesser movie would have done the betrayal by robot thing again, right? And maybe in a lesser franchise that would happen in every movie. And every time you see a robot, you suspect somebody of being a robot, you say, okay, there's going to be a betrayal, and then there is. And the fact that Bishop acts logically and according to his goals and personality and the events, but he's never just another Ash, right? He's clearly similar, but he's also not the same character. And they think about, okay, what makes the most sense for the android to do in this movie? And because of the first movie, we kind of know what the rules are. We don't need to introduce the white blood kind of thing anymore. Or we don't really have to introduce much about there being robots, right? This time it's not a twist anymore. This time we know there are robots in this world. And Bishop still behaves in a consistent way with that, but then the story goes somewhere else in a way that holds up when you watch it again.
But with his character as well, I think with the whole insertion of the robots, I think it's very it's good. The reason why it's good because it kind of adds to the threat. It adds to the whole threat of danger, right? Because with what I've realized with a lot of these robots in these in Alien 1 and Alien 2, they take very long to respond. So there's moments of where they give you that just that sinister mystery behind them. So you're like, what are they thinking? And are they gonna turn on me one day? Do you know what I'm saying? So even with what's his name, Bishop's character, the robot, there was one scene where I think someone asked him to do something. I don't know if it was, I think it was a Marine, and then he just looked at him, took 5-6 seconds to respond. I was like, oh, what the hell is this guy thinking? Is something bad gonna happen there? Do you know what I'm saying? So just having those moments of silence that these robots do a lot, it kind of, like I said, just adds to the whole, the feeling of, is the threat outside or is it inside? And you don't know. And obviously Ripley, she's having that conflict, not even internal conflict, because she's already come across a robot which is bad. So of course she's gonna have a preconceived notion that this robot that she's working with is also the same. So, but for the rest of the crew, just for the viewer, it's okay, now it makes us question if this robot is good or not, and it just adds to the whole threat, and it adds to more it keeps us more engaged and keeps it feel more interesting.
It's also not just a cheap twist, right? It's not just, oh, you thought this was the bad guy, so I'm smarter than you, right? It makes sense, right? It still makes sense if you've not seen the first movie, and if you have, then it's a neat surprise maybe. But it's not the movie's not playing tricks on you by kind of thinking that there's something off about Bishop. And they also don't make a big reveal out of it. It's just everybody's open about the fact that there's an android on board because it's 60 years later, and this is no more common now, and things have changed, and he's not the same kind of android, and no, it's so common that nobody even thought to mention it. Right? So there's no conspiracy here. The first time there was a conspiracy, right? Ash was hiding in the crew, and here he's not hiding; he's just there. So it develops the world, right? It's not like there's always a secret android. It's just androids are a fact in this world, and they get used differently depending on the situation.
Actually, this is one of the questions I had when I was watching the movie, because I know they said that there was X amount of years in the future, and of course this is only set in the 1980s. So I was like, how are they going to advance the technology in this movie to make it feel like it's 50 years in the future? And if I'm honest, I didn't really pick up on it too much, that it felt 50 years in the future. Obviously, what you mentioned there makes a lot of sense, and that again, it's it's subtle. It's not hitting you over the head with it. But like what you said there makes sense. But is there any other examples of that in the movie where
I've got like 5.
Okay.
Pretty much every piece of tech in this movie was established in the first movie,
Mhm.
but here it's better. So the drop, like the cryopods, look nicer. Then they look more sleeker. They look sleeker. They look more modern. Waking up from cryo sleep is shorter. So in both movies, you have a scene where the crew wakes up from cryo sleep and then kind of gets dressed and has food and gets ready for the mission. And I think in Alien, I didn't time it, but it feels at least twice as long.
Mhm.
And so that to me, that's a need because the first time we see it, it's more interesting. So we can't do the same thing again. But also it reinforces this idea that this is 6 years in the future. The technology is more advanced, and so going into cryo sleep and coming out of it is more routine than it was in the first movie.
Mhm.
For example, that's one interpretation. The motion sensors are now standard equipment. In the first one, they kind of MacGyvered something together. In the second one, it's just standard issue. And few more like this. The dropship. In both movies have a scene where you go down, where the crew goes down to the planet with a dropship. Second one is about twice as fast.
Okay.
And no one here is scary. The ride is not as bumpy, right? They're joking why they're doing this, right? So that also indicates that the ship is more advanced. Going down to a planet and coming back up is much more routine than it was 60 years ago. I think those were the examples I wrote down. So everything, like there's not a lot of new stuff in this, right? The guns are new, the guns are bigger and whatever else. But like the core technology that makes up the story is the same as it was in the first movie, but it's better and it's more importantly, it's not just more powerful, it's also more routine.
Highlight moment, a real quick highlight moment. Bishop's, I don't know if he's dead, but when he got snapped into half, I was not expecting that, and that was so brutal. Freaking now, I was like, damn. But yeah, sorry, I had to just mention that one.
I should have, but we should have expected it because like I know they had the whole like kind of like chase thing when they went up the elevator and stuff like that, but it didn't really feel completely concluded, that particular fight between Ripley and the Queen Mother. And also just to insert here as well, like the Queen Mother design, everything about it was like completely menacing. Like it was like really, really, really well done.
Also like a logical next step from the first one, right? Like it's clearly an alien, but it's bigger and different.
Yeah, pretty much. What I didn't like that they did the whole thing where the Queen Mother hid on the ship again. I was like, okay, like
it's one ending too many, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe you could have thought of something different. Again, the shock factor was there when she put her tail through Bishop and it ripped him in half, which was very.
That was crazy. That's like, oh,
yeah, it was very unnecessary. Not needed. No one needed.
In both movies, the android dying is the most graphic and gruesome, right? Because it's not blood, it's not a real person, so it's okay. Yeah. But very different circumstances, right? Very different. All the details are different, but it's clearly the same thing again.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I just kind of they chose something different for ending the Queen Mother. Maybe they could have like ended her on. Maybe they could have like outsmarted her or something like that. I don't know. They could have done something different.
Yeah. It's. I think I like the parallelism that this time Ripley came prepared with the autoloader, and it was again the alien on the ship going out the airlock. But so it's the same basic beats, but it's different. It's bigger, it's more polished. Ripley is not doing this for the first time anymore. Now she has a plan, or more of a plan. So I like it on that level, but yeah, it does feel a little bit like we're doing the same fake out again. You think you fled, but then the alien made it onto the ship. That's maybe one part that's not ideal.
How much of a sidetrack can I take us on right now? Because I've got a question about a completely separate franchise where they do the same thing in 2 different movies. And obviously this is again an area where you have expertise, and I'm like, was there a difference or was it like a bad choice? In Star Wars, where they blow up the Death Destroyer in A New Hope, and then they also blow up the Death Destroyer in the 3rd movie, which was
Return of the Jedi.
Of the Jedi.
Yeah. So they did the thing about doing the Death Star again.
Yeah, essentially. Because you're saying it worked for you in this movie. Did it work in that movie? And this is complete sidetracking it, but it just kind of put into my head, and I was just like curious.
So, in the case of Star Wars, it's not great, But I think it works because of the thematic level that the Empire will just keep doing this forever, unless you do something about it. Like you can't just like they have infinite resources, and you can't if it doesn't matter how many of their assets you destroy, there will always be more, and so there will always be another Death Star, and so they will just keep building them until you take out the Emperor, because he's the central nervous system of the whole thing, right? And I think Alien might be a little bit similar, where on the one hand, yes, it's the same thing again, but also it shows the growth in Ripley, right? The fact that she's not just running away anymore, the fact that she comes back for Newt and actually picks a fight with the alien, right? That is growth, right? And so if you put a character in the same situation twice and they react differently, and they have a reason for doing so, and it makes sense given what you've watched them go through, I would call that good writing.
Yeah.
Right? That it's not just different for the sake of being different, or it's not just a rehash, but it's putting Ripley in the same position twice, and she's not the same person the second time around. So that's how I would explain it, or that's how I would defend it. Because like when you watch it, it's like, oh, this again. But I think if you take the two movies together, I think you can there's an arc in between.
Yeah,
and that's why.
I'm thinking about the first movie and how much she was like panicking and like sort of
Yeah.
She was like formulating a plan, but she was like completely panicking, really like scared of the situation. Whereas in this one, she's a lot more stronger. She's like sort of kind of like distracting the alien from sort of going after Newt and stuff like that. So yeah, you can see the growth in her character. So actually, it does work a little bit more for me.
I think that's why it doesn't really bother me. Like if that wasn't there, then I would say, yeah, didn't you have any better ideas? But the fact that it all hangs together this way, I think saves it for me.
Yeah.
One last question before we go. Did you like the Queen, and did you think this was a good addition to the lore?
I think I've already said that I loved the Queen's design. Again, like we mentioned, it's very logical that you have all of these eggs, so that there would be sort of something or someone that was sort of planting these eggs. And again, it kind of like builds onto sort of that these are not just sort of mindless aliens, even though it's sort of shown sort of in a few different aspects within the movie itself. But then it kind of like then expounds on it when you're seeing that the Queen Mother has an element of control over sort of some of these other aliens as well. So for me, it sort of served its purpose in terms of sort of building out the world, adding a little bit more sort of mythology to sort of the aliens as well.
Yeah. For me, they come across a little bit more like a wolf pack or something like that. Like they're clearly pack hunters, and there's like one in charge, that sort of thing. That's how they came across as. Like calling her the queen kind of makes, like, obviously invokes ants, but and they also kind of build a hive. So I guess they're kind of in between a pack of wolves and a hive of ants. Yeah, I think it's like a logical addition. It makes sense. It ups the stakes without changing anything. Like you're not changing what the alien is about. You're just zooming out and saying, okay, what happens after the alien has won? That makes it work, and that makes it interesting.
For me, it was just refreshing seeing where they come from, because I think I've seen like the other Alien movies, which I've seen. Well, I haven't seen obviously, for people who are wondering, oh, this guy just said he's seen the Alien movie, he's lying. They're lying. But no. I've seen the movie that came out in the 2000s.
You've seen the new ones.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the ones that obviously came out in the 80s or 70s. I think that's when the first one came out.
Yeah,
76. Yeah. So I haven't seen those ones. But yeah, to kind of see where they actually come from was just refreshing. I had no issues with it. Actually, that's actually the first time I've ever said that the monster looks ugly. Like, just looking at the mouth, I was like, Jesus. Like, I think even her mouth, I don't know what the hell was in her mouth, but it looked like
another mouth.
Yeah, but no, but besides, I think there was something else besides that one. I don't know what the hell it was.
Yeah, it's dripping acid.
Okay, yeah, but it looked like little balls of circles or whatever, but it just looked disgusting.
I think those were his teeth. But yeah, it looks creepy. It's weird. You don't want to be anywhere near it.
Yeah, so the design of her was like on point, but yeah, she just looked disgusting and brilliant. And yeah, just seeing that, and even the way she was giving birth, I was like, Jesus. I can imagine what the audience's reaction was like back in the day when they're seeing that, because you know what I'm saying, like, I've seen a lot of disgusting stuff from movies, but that just looked disgusting. So yeah. brain
Even,
session.
sorry, even you mentioned there about the acids that sort of kind of played a role in the movie a few times, and you can see that when they're like spraying their guns and this that, and the other, and you see like the acid splashing and sort of the effects of it. I just thought that was like a really cool addition to add to it in terms of, you've got these Marines that are like so gung ho, but then that kind of works against them when they're sort of going against the aliens.
Yeah.
And there was even a scene where remember the scene where the commander said they're not allowed to use their guns, and then they were like, "What the hell are we supposed to do then? Insult them or something like that?" That kind of like,
yeah,
that kind of like, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say foreshadowed it, but it kind of like showed that, okay, how the hell are they gonna beat such a threat? Because that acid was like an accidental threat, but it still adds to the threat. You get what I'm saying? So it's like killing these aliens is borderline impossible in a way. So yeah, that's how. So that's
really like it's a bit like zombies in the sense that it's easy as long as you're in control. Like if you're far away, if you have the right guns, it's not that hard. But sooner or later they will overwhelm you, and you will get tired before them. You will let your guard down. You will run out of ammo, and then they will keep coming.
But I don't know. Does anyone have any last thoughts? Oh yeah, last thoughts.
Yeah, for me, this is a borderline perfect movie. Like it does everything that a sequel is supposed to do. It builds on the mythos that came before without invalidating any of it. It makes the universe bigger. It makes the characters more well-rounded. It moves the story forward instead of just being the same thing again. Like in my view, if you're a filmmaker or a writer and you're trying to do a sequel, do it like Aliens did.
Literally just took the last point there. I was going to say this movie is literally the blueprint of how to do a sequel, essentially, and how to sort of move your story forward in sort of a meaningful way, and sort of adding again like adding to the lore and sort of adding to the mythology of it, and just sort of just taking your characters on a really good journey. And it's not even just about how to do sequel. It's how to do a female protagonist. It's how to sort of how to add sort of themes and sort of and all that stuff within sort of the movie as well, without kind of like being overwhelming. There's like so much that this movie does right that has been lost in modern cinema. So I feel like people need to go back to.
And you would think in a world in which people are doing nothing but sequels, you would think they would have learned this.
Yeah, but I feel like it's not sincere, the sequels that we're getting at the moment. I feel like we're getting sequels as a means of making money, as opposed to this instance here where the sequel was made because yes, the studio probably wanted to make some money off of the IP as well, because it was like 7 years later, but at the same time they brought in someone that had a lot of like love and care for the original work and wanted to add to it in a meaningful way. So
they did this crazy thing where they just tried to find somebody who looked at the first movie and said, I have an idea for where the story goes next. And then they hired that person and let them do it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And this completely goes against sort of, what we're getting at the moment with, things like Marvel and stuff like that, where you have like this big expanded sort of universe where, you're having to plan like 10 steps ahead or whatever like that. Sometimes, not everything needs to be that. Sometimes this actually is a bigger fly in sort of the sequel Star Wars trilogy, actually, where they kind of like had the original movie, brought someone else in who just completely shit the first movie, and then the third person came back and tried to retcon sort of everything that happened in the second movie, where again, in this example, you have someone that's adding in sort of more meaningful, sort of better ways.
Yeah, Rian Johnson should be forced to watch this movie once a month for the rest of his life. Just
that's being too kind. That's being too kind to him.
Well, for me, I'd say I'd assume that everyone behind this film had a fun time making the film because it looked like a fun movie. And it was a fun movie.
So I don't really pay much attention to production stories like that. They're like this. Apparently, everybody hated each other on the set.
Oh,
there's like stories about how James Cameron didn't get along with anybody, and so it's not like these were like true nerds, following their passions. These were just professionals doing their jobs well.
Wow. Well, you couldn't even tell. Well, I might have to dub down on my comments about like performance being stale and stuff, because the way I saw the film, it seemed like they were having fun. I get it, like cool, it was a movie, but still, like it just seemed like a fun movie to make. Like certain scenes, it just felt like a fun movie to make. But damn, I was not expecting that. So I take back that comment.
All the details, but that's largely the story.
Okay, well, even though they had a terrible time, I had a good time. It was a fun movie. I do see myself watching this again. I'm still not fully convinced. Fully, like, I don't want to lie, I'm still not fully convinced that this is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. But it is definitely a good horror movie, and the second film is definitely a film that I would watch again, and I believe I will watch it again. So
And I think
this
you can watch
film,
it on its own. Like you don't have like it
yeah.
stands on its own.
Yeah, definitely. This was definitely my favorite Alien movie so far. In terms of in comparison to the first one. Yeah. So this was good experience, and I had a good time with this one. Very good time.
Alien Romulus, no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah. So my big hope for Alien Romulus is that Alien Romulus is set between Alien and Aliens, right? It's kind of an interquel. Don't love that word, but that's what it is. And I really hope that will add a third good movie to the Alien franchise, because it's like it's kind of talking the talk, but let's see if they can actually, like, if they do what, like if they bring the ethos of Aliens to Alien Romulus, then it could be something great. And well, which basically means have an idea for where to take the story and then do it well, which sounds obvious, but apparently it's not.
I know this is not a remake, but it feels like it's going to be a remake.
Romulus.
Yeah, from what I saw in the trailer.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's alien stuff. It's a derelict space station. There's experiments going on. It's familiar pieces, but it's up to them to assemble them into something interesting.
How did the latest one end? What was the latest one?
I honestly have no idea. I don't know. I don't. If it wasn't Alien Covenant the last one, and I think that one crashed and burned. I'm not sure. I didn't really follow it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it, because from this trailer, even though I am looking forward to watch it, it still kind of does feel like it's just gonna be like a remake with, their own spins to it. But it doesn't seem like there's gonna be an evolution in the storyline, or it doesn't seem like there's gonna be like anything else interesting. So for me, I just feel like
set before Aliens kind of means it can't move forward. But that there are ways of making that work, I think. So we'll know in a few weeks.
Well, I'm still looking forward to it. I just think it's going to be one of those those junk movies type of film. But yeah. But hi, thanks guys. Thanks guys for tuning into today's episode. We hope you've enjoyed. Just Hervé, plug.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments, of what we discussed, if we missed anything, if there's any extra details that, we need to be aware of this movie, let us know in the comments. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And if you want us to do the other ones, like as far as I'm concerned, we've done the good Alien movies. But if you want us to do the other ones too, let us know in the comments as well.
Definitely.
If you hate us. Apparently, because apparently they're not good. So yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that as well. I'm intrigued to see that. I don't know why I feel like it'll be good, but we'll see. All right, guys, we will catch you next week. Au revoir.
Ciao.
Bye.